Hey, remember that like 5 minutes earlier? That never happened. Welcome to
What are you talking about?
I don't know, nothing. I'm just this is us live right here. It's a last second live stream late night here on a Saturday night because Shelly and I have nothing better to do apparently. See, we have people on YouTube here.
No, Lake Kick's here.
Okay.
Because Lake Kick's over
Lake
here.
Kick is always
loving it.
Always here.
Save me from my boredom.
That's what I'm here for. Either that, well, that may not be true. I may be here to actually bore people worse.
Well, I might go, my boredom was just a bit better.
Well, I think maybe is it more entertaining to watch someone else who's bored than it is to be bored yourself?
I don't know.
Okay, I'm going to give you.
My boredom was just a bit better.
See, that's what happens when you.
What do you?
Okay, so say something. Post a comment. I'm teaching Shelly how to use this.
Say something?
So yeah, just post a comment like, "Hey, everybody, how are you? Hey, welcome back." I'm sorry, I've never left. There's a lot of confusion here tonight because I'm trying to
in good form tonight.
I'm trying to get Shelly. Shelly wants a wrench.
Actually, I want a hammer.
So I have to give her a wrench because she's getting. All right, there.
I'm ready to shred.
You got a wrench. Shelly now has a wrench. So watch out. Hey, let's see who's here, huh? Rodney Labari's here. You know, Rodney uncovered some shocking things that he let me in on. He's kind of an investigative reporter. We're going to do a little bit of we're going to do a little video clip on that and discuss that tomorrow on the big show. This is just kind of a warm up for the big show.
Good thing, because if this was the big show,
we
a really big show.
Yeah, well, if this was a big show, we would be off because we'd be fired because this has sucked so far.
Yeah.
Well, Lewis, what I did was I started this without clicking on the YouTube thing, and then I tried to come back on, and I had to quit it and start over. There you go. Scott says my live stream is about as reliable as the Huskers.
But
that may be true, but I still had to do that. So.
Oh, it was sad.
It was very sad. Bianca Zombie, aloha, dudes. Hey,
J-Dog's here.
Are you in? Are you just from Hawaii? You're actually in Hawaii. Those are interesting. That's interesting because we know Joe Benitez, of course, is from not. Is it Benitez? No, Joe from Las Vegas is a Hawaiian. So, okay. Mike Miller's here. So remember, what was it? Oh, glad you're over here and taking a break from Twitter, Shelly.
Yeah, I had to ice my shoulder a little bit. No.
Too soon for Nebraska jokes?
Yeah. Better wait till the big show.
Yeah, I need like 24 hours at least to recover from that fiasco. It's amazing how you can be there for 4 years and you look and it's still the same team every single game. It's like, where's anyway, don't get me.
Don't get him started. It'll be such a sad night.
Yeah, it's not Joe Benitez. I know Joe Benitez, the artist from Mexico. I was thinking of Joe, what can't think of his last name. Yeah, I will in a second here. And that. You know, the drawing thing underneath there. Watch out, don't lose your phone.
No, gotta have my phone with me from people on Twitter.
So yeah, I was so excited that college football returned today, and then it was tragically it was not as wonderful as I'd hoped. So yeah, I haven't been live streaming for the last couple of days because I've actually been working. Shelly, remember that drawing for a living? Yeah,
I almost had to tape you to your chair like they did the bad people on the flights.
I know. It's addicting. It's like I got to go on. The show must go on, and so. But no, I've been working on my pop-up book, and I'm actually getting caught up on that. So I was feeling a little bit better. I thought, I'll go on a little bit because someone got in touch with me today and said, Aaron, can I get a sketchbook with a sketch in it? And I'm like, of course you can. So.
Of course. Yes. So you notice the Twitter asylum inmates were trying to twist things. Yep. Yeah, but they don't know me very well. I think they thought they would intimidate me and send me scurrying off, but they don't know me very well.
No, they don't.
No, I'm kind of competitive, kind of sassy.
You played volleyball in college, so you got to be
not just volleyball. Played Division I volleyball. Thank you very much.
Okay, well, I just wanted to make sure. I just wanted to make sure that I wasn't giving.
I'm kind of tough. So They don't mess with my man.
Get him, Shell. That's
Yep.
right there. Can you show details about the pop-up book? No, I can't.
I even brought that up.
I can't.
Good idea, but I got shot down too.
It's really cool though. But, if you saw the DC one I did, then they give you at least some idea of. They're very complicated. Matthew Reinhardt's the guy that designs those, and they're just ultra complicated and super cool. Really fun guy to work with, except he makes everything so incredibly detailed. There's like, it's not just like one character bursting out of the page. It's like 20. So it's it gets a little crazy. And then you've got the different characters have different body parts, and you have to draw that are like that move. And so you want me to clarify that? They have different body parts.
I think we're pretty good on that one.
Yeah, I think we all have different body parts, but these actually move. Some of them do, and then you have to draw the back side of somebody's arm as well as the front side. So there's just like all this kind of flipping of the image around, and it gets really complicated. And I keep thinking, did I forget a piece? Did I forget a piece? And so, Jeff Stout's here. Says he finally got the notification. Well, at least you got the notification this time.
This is weird, yeah.
Jeff wants to know if the chat revolution will be televised.
Jeffrey?
If there's enough like torches and pitchforks, it just might get.
The what? Get televised? I'm sorry.
The chat revolution.
Oh. They just think that they can do whatever they want, and I'm not having it. But
well, he may be talking about the revolution that you and Mike are always.
That one?
Yes, that one.
Yeah.
So anyway, in typical last-second live stream format, I am completely I'm completely unprepared. This was probably this has been the worst prepared I've ever been. Well, I'm usually not prepared.
Super prepared. Do your advanced and do your autofocus too while you're there.
Yeah. I'm always prepared for the Sunday show. The Sunday show, I'm always prepared. But these last-second live streams, that's part of the charm, right? Is the fact that I just don't know what's going to happen. We don't want that. We want that off.
There you go.
All right.
So Nebraska lost because they didn't have enough. I can't read that. What does it say? Runses?
Oh.
Runses?
Yeah, well, that
didn't have enough of something.
If only that was the problem.
Aaron unprepared for a live stream?
I know. Look at Jeff. Oh, some people might say that I'm prepared, Jeff, for this. So not completely unprepared. Oh my gosh. I know I'm a wreck. Okay, but I am sort of prepared. Now someone contacted me and said that they wanted a sketchbook with a sketch in it, which I think I started to tell that story earlier, didn't I? I don't know. See, I don't even know what I'm saying. Well, good night, everybody. No, so they said he wanted a Catwoman, and I thought, you know what?
Yeah, why not?
Why not? So let me go bold here, and I actually have pants on tonight, as opposed to not just having shorts on. I always have some form of pants on.
Goodness, that scared me.
But I have
what
actually.
What kind of shows are you doing when I'm not here?
Jeff, I'm afraid you might be right on that.
We
it saddens me.
Frost, right?
Yeah, we really want Scott to do well, but it doesn't look like he's doing well.
What the heck? They're making mistakes that high school players don't even make.
It's like they're going out of their way to lose games. It's the most amazing thing the most horrifically amazing thing I've ever seen. But speaking of things not horrifically surprising, or let's do this for a second.
Jeffrey's on fire.
I don't even want to. Jeff Potts is?
Yep. Oh my gosh.
No, I've got too much information, right? Well, I guess what I was trying to say was I always wear shorts, and you guys, give me a hard time about the werewolf legs. So I've actually got pants totally covering them. So
yeah. Oh my gosh.
Look at Leg Kick dropping Nebraska information on me. Mom and her brothers and sisters were Nebraska. And the Runza is a dish from the Germans who lived there. Well, it's a heck of a little sandwich kind of thing, too. I had one last time I was there.
Wow.
Does that dog have another pen?
Oh, my gosh.
How in the
He could have his own show.
Seriously, where is he getting this from?
Pens and chapstick.
This is like not laying around on the floor, and somehow he has it. Are you feeding this stuff to disrupt the show? Okay.
I'm telling you. That's good.
just lay down and leave us alone. Will you do that for us?
I got it.
My gosh. It's insanity is what I'm telling you.
Insanity.
But let me show you this.
Awesome.
Okay, so
all right, the God.
my son is a 28-year-old engineer, and he's a comic collector, sort of. He just bought this, I think, just to rub it in my face. But check this out.
Who bought that?
Your son did.
Oh.
Now this is a 9/2 Strange Tales. What is it? 123. It is 123. This is the first Thor crossover, and it's the first meeting of Doctor Strange and Loki, and it's the first appearance in Origin of the Blue Beetle.
Wow.
And for some strange reason, this is kind of an under-the-radar book, and he just got this on eBay at a fairly good price, and it's like, hey, look what I got. And I'm like,
yeah.
So,
Why is it Shelly on camera? Because I think I'd break it today.
yeah, Shelly's ditching the camera. So
yeah. We're purdy today. I'm just going to visit for a little bit and then I don't know.
Oh, wait a minute.
What?
There's a question.
Oh.
Now I got to find. Yeah, it's kind of a jazzy little song there. So, hello, Aaron. Any pointers for drawing women? You do an exceptional job of it. Thank you so much. You know, the story behind that is my mom, bless her soul, who's going to be 90 on Monday.
Oh.
Yes, that's where he's getting it.
Where?
Get out of there.
It's your stuff.
I got a tab right next to my drawing table, and it's got a ground level shelf on it that he's digging into and getting all this good stuff out of there. So anyway, my mom, who's going to turn 90 on Monday,
oh man,
she was, believe it or not, was a big pinup fan growing up, and like George Petty, and if you don't know who that is, look him up. She get out of there. This is epically the worst show that you could ever possibly watch on a Saturday night, and I'm sorry. So anyway, she was very adamant and on my case when I was younger and started drawing women, which, you know, when you get to be about 12 or 13, you start going, hey, girls. And so when you're always drawing men and superheroes all the time, you start drawing women, right? But then your women just look like dudes with boobs, if I can be blunt. And so my mom was always on my case about drawing pretty women, and, you know, that their hips need to be bigger, her waist needs to be thinner, this, blah, blah, blah. And so I give the credit to my mom, but
I'm glad she doesn't look at me. Goodness sakes.
Wait a minute here. I gotta read this real quick before I forget. Ahoy, Shelly and Aaron, backing on Friday. Keep raising heck on Twitter, young lady. Thank you, Dick. Appreciate the $4.99. That's very nice of you.
People are learning not to mess with my man.
So anyway, one of the things I did was I had at a very early age, I had a book by Jack Ham. I think it was called Figure Drawing or Drawing the Figure by Jack Ham. And it's very simple, but it's really, really good. And so I was just looking at anatomy books because I didn't have access to go, if, you know, 14, 15 years old, I'm not going to go get a nude model and go, Mom, I got this girl's going to take her clothes off so I can draw her. You know, this is probably not going to work out. So in fact, I don't think you can actually do that till you're 18. You know, they let you go to, you know, nude model classes or whatever. So I just used books and, but not books on like how to draw comics the Marvel way was not what I used to learn to draw women. It was, I looked at Alberto Vargas, I looked at George Petty, I looked at this Jack Ham book that I have that I still have. It's literally falling apart, but just well drawn anatomy books. And that's what I used as my guide and my reference. And then as an artist, you're always looking at people all the time. You want to be careful how you're looking at them because you don't want to get arrested. But you do want to pay attention, people's faces, expressions, things like that. Just be someone who's observing all the time. And then it just comes down to practice, right? So
it's good.
So Jeff, wait a second now. Good evening. So the USPS got in contact with me yesterday and basically told me information I already knew about your sketchbook that you sent me. Good old USPS. Hopefully it isn't lost. Well, like I said, if it is lost, I'll take care of you. Just keep me posted, man. Tom Petty's dad. What did I do? Did I miss a joke in there? Oh, George Petty. Oh my gosh. Holy crap.
Um,
Oh, come on
but
now.
you know.
Um, Thank you. Congratulations on your campaign. Right,
Oh, yeah.
success. Here's the 6 figures. Let's hope so.
Yep.
We've got some really cool stretch goals up there. They're kind of expensive, so I need to I need to get up there. Let's see. Remember? Oh no.
What?
Here's Lisa Lynn. Remember when I first met you? I mentioned how nicely you were very respectful of that area.
That area.
I guess you're talking about drawing women. I'm not sure what area you're talking about, Lisa. Now, Lisa, here's the thing with Lisa. Lisa loves White Castle. And she made me go to White Castle at a show in Indiana. I had it before.
Yeah.
What a bunch of crap. I will never go there again. Have you ever had White Castle?
I don't think so.
They like steam their burgers or something.
I've seen it
it's
on
just
like
mushy.
the
It's just
Food Channel
gross.
or
I don't know how
whatever.
that can be a thing, but it is for Lisa. Then Lisa would like butt dial me like at 6 a.m. on Saturdays because she's on the East Coast. I'm like, what are you? Yeah. So it's
anyway.
yeah. So anyway, hi Lisa. Thanks for dropping in. And it's very late there in Florida, so I appreciate you staying up late. Yes, the chest, the breasts. I have video laughing my ass off. Hey, look it. I'm not a cheesecake artist, but I try to draw women. You know, obviously they're going to, you draw them as beautiful as you can, but you want to be respectful. You want to be, you don't want to be a perv about it. Well, Jeff, last football question. He says, what are the black shirts the Huskers are known for? Their defense played fairly well today. It was their offense that lost that game for them, unfortunately. So
at least, you know what, you've really matured in your old age with how you respond when they lose. Because before, it used to be Aaron and his dad and our son, they'd watch the game, they'd yell, they'd eat stuff, whatever. And then it would just be like Depressionville over here.
Well, they've been so bad for so long now that my expectations are so low that even when they get beat, if they won, I would probably be so elated I would like wet my pants or something. So,
oh gosh,
here we go with the pants thing again.
But no, when I used to manage a health club and I would work on Saturdays, the members would be watching the games on the TVs and go, oh, you can't go home for a while, or go home now. They won. He's happy.
I was never violent. I was just morose after
I
a
was just
loss.
like, oh, the whole rest of the day was just like, blah.
Has it been cooler there? Cooler than what? Cooler than it has been? Yes. But it's still actually kind of warm. It's warm today. Yeah. Here we go.
Sweating.
$5. Thank you very much. Sphinxor and his ring shippers. That sounds dirty. Always curious if Marvel buying Malibu Ultras had detrimental impacts on you artists. Also, favorite writer you've worked with, Aaron. My favorite writer I've worked with is me. And actually, I don't know that there's a writer I've worked with that I didn't like. I don't know. I've worked with a lot of people and I've had really good experiences. I can't think of a script I read and went, wow, this sucks. Can't believe I'm drawing this.
No, but you've read many scripts that the editors didn't quite catch stuff.
Well, it was part of the job being editorial as well.
Yeah.
And also my Marvel buying Malibu and Ultras had detrimental impacts. It did on me a little bit because I stayed at Malibu too long when a lot of guys were bailing and taking opportunities to kind of springboard off their a little bit of the success and the I'm not going to say fame, but recognition that we got on the Ultravist books. Like, guys like Terry and other people went to Marvel and did really well. But I had such deep friendships with the guys at Malibu. I hung in until we actually were drowning. Yeah. And then it was it made it a little more difficult for me to get on at Marvel or DC, which I eventually did, but it was a little bit more of a challenge for me. Let's see.
Nice.
White Castle's the Golden Corral of fast food burger joints.
I can't wait to go.
Yeah, now you know why Aaron doesn't wear pants. That's right. In case there's actually a Husker win and I wet myself, that'd be terrible, right? If I don't wear any pants, clean up is easy, right?
It's going to be the new thing this week. Let's see.
He's piling on White Castle. He said, even the fries were terrible. It was nothing I found. I did eat it, but it was not an enjoyable meal.
Oh, gosh.
Oh, is it really? Jim Starlin's Adam Warlock. That was trippy. I bought that one as a kid because I thought the art was cool, but I had no idea what was going on in that book. I'm going to say Garbage Man.
Okay, hold on. Your other one is still like waiting.
My other what is?
Your other video. So you need to shut down your other stream. The oops one. Hey, hold on.
Oh.
Oh, we are like.
We'll see. Now
there I was. Oh, I'm on camera. Lord help us.
We'll stay off camera. Where is it? Yeah, I don't see it now. How can I know it's not even coming up?
All right, I'm on
you guys know what you're talking. This
there
one?
it is.
Oh, okay. Well, so my
no, not edit.
no, I want to delete it.
Oh, my bad.
This is the
Holy cow.
I don't know how to get rid of this. I got to delete it, but I can't do it right now. I cannot do it right now. I'm right in the middle of the show. People are just going to have to figure out that if they're waiting for me to go live, they're watching the wrong thing.
I'll figure it out. Don't worry, I'm on it. I got you. You got some other wrenchers in there. You're good. I'm ready to shred some people
though. Yeah. So, yeah, Mike didn't recognize me last time I saw him, which was kind of sad, but another tragic Wrightson story. But no, Mike and I were actually pretty good friends. I used to call him all the time when I met him because he was working on he did that one shot, that Christmas special or whatever it was with Sludge. And I met him at a Portland show. We went out to dinner afterwards and talked and stuff. And I kept in touch. And he later invited me over to his house with a couple other guys. And we got to look through all of his old artwork, which was really cool. And I kept in touch with him for years. And then I hadn't seen him for the longest time. And I don't know, it was about 4 years ago maybe. He was walking by my booth at a Portland show. And I said, Mike, Aaron LaPresti. And he just, so I don't know. But anyway, yeah, he's a great guy, terrific guy, wonderful guy. And was big fan of his stuff. I actually have an original of his hanging in my hallway.
So there you have it.
Well, I think Man-Thing was inspired by the Heap, definitely. Sludge was more inspired by, well, Gerber created the character essentially. And so it was he wanted, every comics group, every organization has to have a monster, right? To go with your superheroes, you have to have a monster book. And so he created that for Malibu. So I'm sure it was kind of like, well, I'm sure some of it was based on Man-Thing, but he wanted to tell an urban crime story. And so it was basically create a swamp creature, but throw him in an urban setting and, you get Sludge.
All right. All right, everybody. Have a good evening. I'll see you tomorrow.
You want me to switch cameras here?
No. Oh, yeah. So I can walk out and then see me in my jammies. Got me a good headache going, so I'm going to go.
There you are.
Peace. All right.
Good night, y'all.
Bye. Enjoy. Come on, mister.
At least the dog won't be eating any more pens. So anyway, I got a Catwoman to draw in here. And gosh darn it, let's get after it, shall we? And of course, it's completely washed out because of that white paper reflection, which is why I went to the brown paper, but actually obviously can't change the paper. Let me see if I That's a little bit better. There we go. Let me turn this like this. That's not too bad. So you'll see that I make the egg shape for the head and lines that follow the curvature. So I know where the middle of the face is and where to put the eyes. Now I always put the eyes in first because they sort of dictate where the rest of the features go in relation to them. So we'll go ahead and do that. Give it a little bit of cheek there. So I'm going to assume he wants the Catwoman with the goggles, since that's sort of the one we've sort of come to. I guess that's probably the Adam Hughes version, right? I mean, he's the one who. He's the one that developed this costume, I'm pretty sure. So I'll just go in and rough in my basic shapes here. Let's see. You would think, Mike, you would think that that would be the answer, but it isn't the answer, because at least what I can do white balance wise with the controls I have, it doesn't do anything. Thank you, Gabriel. I appreciate it. Shelley, of course. Oh, did Darwin Cook? I didn't know that. So Darwin Cook created the goggle look. Okay. I stand corrected. Well, I actually made dinner tonight, and I haven't been doing that either, and that's kind of like my job around here. I was sort of in the marriage agreement that I would do the cooking if Shelley would do the laundry. And because I've been doing all this live streaming and stuff, that come on, baby. There we go. Just don't move the book. But anyway, we're doing all this live streaming and stuff. Obviously, you got to promote the book, but my goodness, it takes a lot of time. So I've just basically taken the last couple of days off so I could. All right, you guys are going to have to trust that you'll see this when I start inking. I'm in the process of getting a drafting table, which I'm going to put right here, a small one. So this will no longer be happening. I won't be drawing. There you can see what I've done. And the rest I'm going to do with the pen, which you will be able to see. Rodney's like, that's so beautiful. Now I want a Catwoman. Rodney has so many books. He has to get a bookshelf just for his raw imagination sketchbooks with sketches in them. This reminds me of, I remember I was at San Diego, I mean, years ago. I still had hair, still relatively young, breaking in to the industry. And this guy, they had the art auction, and we were all up on a stage doing drawings, right? So the crowd would sit in folding chairs, you know, but a fairly decent distance from the stage. And this guy had lightly blue lined his drawing on there, you know, before he went up on stage, because you don't want to go up there and just have it be a complete disaster, right? But it looked like the page was blank. So, I wonder if I turn that light off. Hang on one second. Hang on one freaking second. Now we're drawing Catwoman. It's going to get all spooky in here. There we go. Look at the creepy shadows, though. Like that's my. Look at that. Ooh, creepy. But anyway, so he had done this. He had drawn the drawing in blue line, and no one could see it, right? So he went up there and just started inking. And it looked like he was just doing this amazingly perfect drawing in ink without, you know, anything to guide him. And I don't remember who it was, but I remember just the crowd just oohing and awing, going, "Oh my gosh, look what that guy's doing." Fooled the masses. That's why Mike didn't recognize you, because of the hair. Yeah, well, that that, you know what? That could be, because I think the only time I'd seen him in person, I talked to him on the phone. You know, even after he moved to Europe, I'd call him in London every once in a while and see what he was up to. But yeah, that's probably true. Last time I actually saw him, before that, I probably had hair, and it was definitely 15 years younger. So, oh. See, Jeff is starving, and now he's hangry, and so he's got to dish a little bit, and that's what he gets. These cameras, man, I spend a lot of money on this camera. You'd think I would have better controls than I have. Because it really doesn't hardly let me adjust anything of consequence. It's just really annoying. So now you guys can see perfectly fine, and I can't see anything. I'm drawing in the dark. But that's all right. This is all about you guys. Well, Shelly's back.
I'm just going to grab my laptop so I can still play and lay down. Okay, watch out.
Are you going to push me forward?
Well, yeah, even in my skinny days, I'm not sure I would have made that. Okay. I got to find you a drafting table.
That's right. See, she's been on the, Shelly is the...
shredder, shopper, you know, whatever.
Anything with an S.
Anything you need. I got you.
And then just one day, a drafting table will show up at the front door in a huge box, and I'll go, "Where did this come from?" She goes, "Oh yeah, I got that for you." So. Of course, the downside to this is that it's a black cat, and I do not have the privilege of using a heavy black pen to go in and color this, because, as you all know that watch regularly that it'll bleed through, and we don't want to bleed through. Some highlights in there just for good measure. So as far as I know, tomorrow night we should be on at the regular time around 5 or 5:30-ish. If somebody big name ends up doing a show tomorrow and bumps us a little earlier, I will let everyone know on social media as soon as I can. But because I can't compete with the big boys. Of course, I won't drop any names because I don't want to seem like I'm complaining about people that are more successful than me and stealing my time slots or anything like that. So go. Let the cross-hatching begin. Yeah, Mike posted a bunch of pictures of his birthday, his 50th birthday. He looked like Fabio in the pictures, so he's rubbing it in a little bit. And because he still has his hair, I got to do this. Yeah. Let's see. Jeff wants to know, Aaron, was there a character, Marvel or DC, that was your dream character to draw? God, that's a good question. Well, I got to draw Swamp Thing in one of those Walmart 100-page giants, and that was kind of cool because obviously I'm a big fan of Wrightson's, and so that was kind of a pleasure to do my homage to him, because if anybody saw that, I drew it, based on the Wrightson model, not on the more grassy vegetation-looking Swamp Thing, but more like that John Toppelbaum and those guys did. Stephen Bissett. I did the more classic Wrightson version, so that was fun. Doing the Herculoids was a blast. Those aren't classic DC characters. I have to say, I was never really a big Superman fan, but I sort of became a Superman fan. I'm talking, of course, of the Clark Kent version, the classic version. And I got to draw him a little bit in Justice League, and I did a few covers when I first went over to DC, Superman covers, but I never got to draw the book. I was supposed to draw the book, but it was after I got done with Wonder Woman, but it was Superman Walks Across America. Like, you can imagine why I turned that down. And so I never really got to do the book, and I would have liked to have drawn the book, but I did get to draw the character, like I said, in Justice League. So I did a Batman story that I wrote and drew. If you guys are familiar with that, it was the Legends of the Dark Knight. It was actually a digital story first, and they released them as Legends of the Dark Knight 100-page giants or something like that. And I wrote and drew that, wrote, penciled, and inked it. So I got that kind of Batman stuff out of the way. And I did a few issues of Detective, so it wasn't like I didn't get to draw them. But the stuff I pitched to Dan to deal was the Metamorpho miniseries. So I always liked Metamorpho, and I was trying to get him to let me do a Creeper series. That I had a really good idea for the Creeper, but the one thing about Dan was always very sort of practical, which you got to be. He wasn't too thrilled with publishing stuff he didn't think would sell, and he was right. They wouldn't sell, but at least the numbers they would have needed to sell. So it was always hard to, get him to let me use one of their third-rate characters. And those are always my favorite, like Plastic Man. And I did get to do Plastic Man cover on Gail Simone's miniseries, so that was satisfying. Although I also did way back in the late 90s, I did there was a Plastic Man special that DC did, and I did one of the stories in there. I think Ty Templeton wrote it. I still have most of the pages from that. I wish I had all of them. I inked that myself. And but I sold a couple pages, and then I was like, dang, I should have kept those. This is pretty sloppy crotch hatching. Cross hatching. But as you can see, you keep doing it, and it eventually actually, you keep cross hatching over the top of the cross hatch, and eventually it comes together and it looks okay. Jimmy Owens is here, not to be confused with Jimmy Olsen. Thanks for dropping in, man. I appreciate it. I hope you're joking. Straczynski now set to be showrunner for Doctor Who, a season hiking across Planet of the Dead. Oh. Yeah, it's funny. I tried to get Plastic Man when Ethan was still at DC, and they're like, Dan DiDio was like, no, that's Ethan's. I'm like, oh, I kept telling him, like, he's never going to do anything with it. He's not going to do anything with it. And as I think when Ethan was on my stream last, and I got to interview him a little bit, he did mention the fact that he was making too much money to ever do Plastic Man. They could never let him do Plastic Man because it would have cost him, they would have lost money on it with his page rate. I never had Ethan's page rate, but it still was a book that they didn't think would sell. But they finally let Gail do it. And I remember talking to Gail a little bit about it, and seemed like what she wanted to do was a little bit more adult than what I wanted to do. I mean, I would have liked to have I liked him as more of a humorous character than trying to keep kind of straight and dark with it. I don't like revamping characters. Characters I like since I was a kid, and that's why I like them. So it's like I really don't want to do something different with them. Even when I did Metamorpho, I did something a little different with him, but all I did really was try and have the origin make sense, because that was the most convoluted, goofy origin that never made sense to me. So I was just I kept all the same elements, but then tried to expand on it and have it so it actually would make sense. But I didn't really change the character. And made a few alterations on his look, but not much. So we have the beautiful Catwoman. Actually, should be a band here. I forgot. So now I got to go in and make that even darker so it stands out. Oops. What do I need here? I need an 8.0. There we go. Yeah, Shelly got me on that. Sheldon is here. Thanks for dropping in. Appreciate it, man. Ian Howe's here. Thanks, Jimmy. We had a pretty good day, except for Nebraska getting beat. But let's not get onto that again. Omar Comics, you draw the ladies so good. Thank you so much. I appreciate that. Jeff Stout loves Metamorpho. You know, I happen to agree with this. I happen to agree with this a lot. It's really difficult to draw in new readers just because of the competition with comics. I mean, young readers, you know, video games and stuff like that. But if you don't make the books accessible to those younger readers, then how do you ever have a chance of growing your audience? All you're doing is sort of, you know, taking care of your older audience, which is, you know, I guess us now. And I don't think you need to have a kids line. I think you just, you know, there's no reason why you can't keep everything PG-13. And if you want to have an adult line, then you do that, like, you know, what they're doing with Black Label or whatever, or Vertigo used to be. But your mainstream book should be accessible. That doesn't mean you have to, you know, write down to anybody. I mean, my gosh, look what Frank Miller was doing with Daredevil, you know, in the 80s. Those were still considered code books and dealt with some pretty heavy subject matter, but it was still controlled in a way that it wasn't, you know, you weren't having, you know, naked girls have a pillow fight in a splash page. So I think we do need more of that. Unfortunately, we're not going to get it, at least not from the big two. Yeah, we brought this up earlier, that this was a design by, oh, for crying out loud, Darwin Cook. Thank you. So no, she didn't until he, I think, redesigned her, which would have been in the 90s, right? Darth Josh, thank you, sir. Appreciate it. Yeah, but you know, the interesting thing is, I also watch Nebraska volleyball because Shelly used to play volleyball in college, as I mentioned earlier. And so I've become, since I met her, I've become kind of a volleyball fan. So I watched Nebraska volleyball, and they're really good. And they just beat Kansas State today. So that was where I went and got my Nebraska victory. I had some of my USC friends from film school like, why do you root for Nebraska, man? Why aren't you rooting for USC? But you have to understand, I was raised, my dad's was from Nebraska, and I was raised on that, like from when I was 6 years old. I was 21 by the time I transferred down to USC. And so at that point, your entire, you know, it's hard. You can't just abandon something that's been ingrained in you for your entire youth. So I was a USC fan while I was there, but I, you know, always been a Nebraska fan, but they've been so disappointing now for so long. I don't know. I'm becoming apathetic, which I never thought I would say. But again, enough about college football. I think there's probably some truth into that as well. I've often said that I feel like a lot of these miniseries that they do are sort of, you know, drawn out, and they feel more like episodic television than they do like comic books. And I think that kind of takes the fun out of the fact that, you know, what comic books used to be. I'm not going to say what they should be. I guess that's up for you guys to decide what comics should be, but what I would like them to be. Yeah, see, there you go. There's another guy who's brainwashed by his dad. Yep, it sticks with you, man. You can't get out of it. Oh, man, isn't that the truth? Yeah, oh my gosh, isn't that true? Yeah, well, I went through this stage when where we weren't just, excuse my reach, I got to open up the bat book and see what number this is. We went through, like, you know, kids in your neighborhood, you would go through stages like, oh, we're doing model building for like a couple months, and you burn out on that. Then it was, you know, we're going to go to the record store and buy albums, and then it was, you know, skateboarding, and then but then it sort of, at one point it became comic books, and we were all sort of into that for a while, and I stayed in it, where everybody else just sort of, it kind of went the other way with it, or left it behind, I guess I should say. All right, so this is 321. Catwoman. Boom. Boom. All right. There's a cap on the floor. Food for my dog, so I better move that. Oh, but anyway, my point being, yeah, we went through the Mad Magazine phase too, where it was just like all we read was Mad Magazine. Of course, we're huge Mort Drucker fans and Don Martin and all the other stuff that was in there. Used to love that stuff, and of course now that's all gone. I miss print media. It's really disappeared except for comics for the most part. And I mean, there's still some magazines and stuff, but man, I miss that. But again, that's just me being nostalgic, probably. What kind of dog? We have a miniature Schnauzer, and he's hyper, and he needs attention all the time, but he's hilarious. So, but yeah, I mean, I miss that kind of going to the newsstand and picking up magazines and comics and things like that. And obviously, they were much cheaper, so you didn't have to. It didn't cost you a fortune, right? You could get 4 for $1 in comics or whatever. Mad Magazine was like 50 cents or something, you know. And they'd always put on 50 cents cheap, you know, on the cover. But anyway, this is, in case you're wondering, this is Raw Imagination. This is 20 years of sketches. It's got all sorts of stuff in here. Very eclectic collection of stuff I've done over the years, and a lot of new stuff in the last. There's a lot of stuff in here that hasn't seen print before. But it's my most ambitious sketchbook project ever. Most of the ones I did are those kind of convention-sized pamphlets, but this is a hardcover. It's a really nice book, 64 pages, and these are available. Actually, they're available on the Wraith of God campaign as one of the tiers. You can get a copy of the comic and one of the sketchbooks, or you can just order them directly from me, and you can get sketches in them for an extra $20. So they're $25 or $45 with a sketch in them, $5 shipping. So $50 gets you one of these with a sketch inside and delivered to your home, unless you're like, I wonder if he's still here, GJ Martinez, who his book is apparently lost in the mail. So I may have to do another one for him. But anyway, that's that. Back, look at, see, now I'm spooky, right? So I gotta turn this. Come on. Whoa! Now I have dramatic lighting. Not spooky, but dramatic lighting. And that's, you know, that's for something. I got hooked on comics when I bought 2001: A Space Odyssey. Wow. That was a, yeah, that was the, what we call the Treasury Edition size, wasn't it? I was just talking to Graham Nolan about that, and I thought, wouldn't that be awesome if we could figure out some way to do Treasury Editions? Oh, I love those things. I used to read those to my kids when they were little because the pictures were so big, right? We could just, you know, sit there and, you know, they'd be in bed for nighttime, you know, I'd give them a nighttime story, right? And we'd read these gigantic, you know, Spider-Man adventures in the Treasury Editions. I used to love those. This is more of a question you should ask Art to Bear, because I'm not as old as I look. So Mike, just because you have Fabio hair, you don't have to rub it in all the time. Oh, thanks, Jeff. That's, you know, that's really thoughtful of you. And it makes me think of this then. Yeah, you know, I didn't do a great job of taking care of my Treasury Editions. And the thing is, the spines on those were all glued. And what tends to happen is they get brittle over time. Like I have the Superman, Spider-Man team up, the original one. And that's actually worth like about $200 in near mint condition. And mine's in really nice condition, except, oh, I opened it up one day and crack, the whole thing separated from the spine. So I'd have to re-glue it myself, which I guess technically I could do and not tell anyone, but I'm not really planning on selling it, obviously. But it's kind of a bummer. I hate it when my stuff falls apart. But those square bound things, they're those old when they just use that glue. It gets old and it'll pop right off. There you go. Yep. You know, the Bible one is really, really good by Nestor Redondo. The art in that is fantastic. That's exactly right. Art knows how much artists charge for painting on caves. I'm gonna have to see if I can remember to tell him that next time I talk to him. Yeah, you know what? Not too long. Well, I'm going to say not too long ago, but it actually was a while ago. It was at San Diego, and I remember coming across a guy who just had stacks of Treasury editions, and they were all in really nice shape. This is probably at least 15 years ago, and I picked up the Muhammad Ali Superman by Neil Adams. It's just fantastic, and so I still have that over there on the shelf. That's an excellent question. And all I can say is, thankfully, we won't be here to see it, because you can imagine picking up your 200-year-old comic and just having it turn to dust in your hand. Although I will say this, I have some Saturday Evening Posts over there in my stockpile, from some as old as like 1913, and not bad. They're still in pretty decent shape, and that's what, 110 years old now. So I think if you take care of them, you can get some life out of them. Hopefully, just sell everything, the day before you die, right? So it doesn't end in your estate and turn to dust. See, Mike has its Soups versus Ollie somewhere. I think everybody did. It was such a cool book. It was I would hate to take on that assignment, because then you're drawing likenesses of Muhammad Ali all the time, and he had some representative looking that over and okaying whether or not the likeness was good enough or not, and that's too much pressure, man. I remember when I did that. I did a Star Trek comic with can't think of the gentleman who wrote it. Looks like Star Trek All of Me or something like that. And God, that was brutal, because you do like a splash page or something and you really get Kirk's likeness or Spock or whatever. But then you're saying, okay, I got to draw this guy 6 different times on this page. And so it's like trying to get the likeness right on every time. And for something about Shatner as Kirk, it's really hard to get that likeness. Spock is much easier because he has much bolder features, the longer nose, the face, everything. Where Kirk, for some reason, there's just something about him that's challenging. And I got, like the first couple of pages were dead on, but it's like, this was like a 48-page prestige format thing I remember doing. And it's just like, I was trying to do a good job on it, but holy crap, it was really hard when you had Chekhov and Sulu and McCoy and Scotty and Uhura, you're like, every panel was like a likeness of somebody. So it really, it's a bit of a chore. So I got my classic Trek out of my system very early on, and I don't think I'd ever revisit that. I do a single piece, but not an entire book. Let's see. Yeah, Epic Illustrated, man, I love that book when I was younger, because it was all fantasy stuff, right? It was Marvel's sort of heavy metal. It wasn't quite as hardcore as heavy metal in terms of subject matter and the adult material in it, although it did have some adult material in it, but it felt a little bit more accessible, maybe. But I love that book, and it went for a long time. There's some really great stuff hidden in some of those. No way, really? Are you serious?
Logical.
Oh, okay, there he is. How about that? Um, you know, I think you might be right. I think you're right about that. Gary Jeff, I like Aaron's work. I want to support his comic, but people are saying he is in a Nazi group now. That would be not true. I don't know what else to tell you, Gary. You got to do what you feel is right, of course, but that's ridiculous. That's true. Just watch my stream and you get a pretty good idea of who I am. They're referring to Comicsgate. They're referring basically to Ethan Van Sciver, and there's a lot of water under the bridge, a lot of back and forth between some mainstream comic people and Ethan, and a few people that supported Ethan, especially earlier. There was a lot of mudslinging and stuff going back and forth, and when people get pissed off, and there was no racial component, there was no official hate group component. It was just people being very unfriendly to one another who didn't agree, and there was obviously a political component to that. And so then it's, that stuff obviously always ends up degenerating to ridiculous name calling like white supremacist and Nazi because you don't like somebody, and that's the quickest and easiest way to harm them, or so people think. So again, like I said, I don't know what to say about it. I have no associations with hate groups. I never have, and I never will. And I'm not someone that supports mudslinging. I'm not going to defend other people that do that. But I associate with a lot of people, and the people that I know in Comicsgate are pretty good guys for the most part, and some of them I don't know real well, so I can't speak for everyone, obviously. The fan support that I've got from them has been fantastic. So, I mean, I don't know what to say. You just sort of have to kind of, there's a lot of social pressure out there, that are on people. Believe me, I know I took a lot of crap and still am, obviously, just for launching my book on, Ethan's channel and associating with him and Comicsgate. And I would say there's a lot of mud being slung both ways, so I wouldn't take it too seriously. But again, I want you to make a choice that you're comfortable with, certainly. Well, no, I know there's a lot of confusion out there, and I'm not. I understand what you're reading, what you're seeing, and it's got to be, it's got to be mind numbing. So, not at all. I mean, that's the best answer I can give you, though. Well, there you go. Stay off Twitter. I wish I could. It is very much. But anyway, well, let's see. See, Omar's got it figured out. I don't hate. I just appreciate. I think that's where we all need to be. Maybe it's pie in the sky for me to think that maybe someday we can kind of bridge gaps again, and people that are, and let's not kid ourselves. I didn't want to go down this road, but let's not kid ourselves. This is all political. It always is. It's just dressed up in selective morality sometimes, but it's, you know, this guy likes Trump and I hate Trump, so therefore I hate you and you're a Nazi or whatever. And it's just dumb. And, you know, people have kind of seemed to have lost the ability to sort of converse with one another, even though they may have different ideas about things politically, and just be able to say, hey, I don't agree with you, but let's just walk away from this and still be friends. It seems like that's a difficult thing for a lot of people, and it's unfortunate, because I think we got a very diverse group of people, not just in the comic scene, but in the world, and we better start figuring out how to get along again, or it's going to be it's going to get ugly, way uglier than it is right now, which I don't even want to think about. People were raised by phones. There's some truth in that too. You know, and this is true. It is, because you'd like to think that there's some places you can go, right, to kind of get away from all the noise. And when you start seeing it so prominently in entertainment, then where do you have to escape it from it, right? And so those of us who are, you know, trying to do some independent stuff, you know, whether they're Comicsgate people or not Comicsgate people, we're just trying to do independent comics away from the mainstream. Basically, what I see most people doing is they're trying to get back to a more traditional, what we remember as kids. And Jeff, you look like you're probably pretty young, so you're probably just out of being a kid. So, but those of us who, you know, read comics in the, you know, 70s, 80s, even in the 90s, you know, during the Jim Lee era, if you will, you know, those was just kind of fun escapism sort of stuff. And I'm not saying you can't have, you know, political subtext. Everybody always does, but, you know, you don't want to use an entertainment venue. I don't think you don't want to use it for a platform to just push an ideology, because that it's no longer entertainment at that point, right? And so, you know, having morals to your story, having something that you feel strongly about be a part of your story is fine, but remember, you're there to entertain the customer and give them a chance to get away from that garbage and have it, instead of it being thrown on them all the time. So, and I think that's what you're seeing a lot in the independent comics now. But so anyway, there you have it. I'm sorry, I called you Jeff. It's Gary I was referring to. So anyway, there you have it, gang. Well, this has been actually a fairly interesting conversation, but so I'm trying to think if I got anything laying around here. Oh, wait a minute. So my son, who's 28, is a big. He doesn't read new comics. He reads like the classic stuff. Just as I trained my daughter to be a fan of classic rock and roll, I've trained my son to be a fan of classic comics. So he buys these Marvel Essentials, right? And Dark Horse, when they had the rights to Conan, they reprinted all the Marvel stuff that Barry Smith did, but they were in these color editions, and they're super expensive now. So I have like 3 of them, but I don't have all of them. And so my son came across this. This is the first 25 issues. That's all the Barry Smith stuff in this Essentials, and got it for me. So now I don't have to break open my near mint books. What do we got here? Whenever one of these HWs attack you, just ask them for their backer number. You'll be surprised if they have one. Well, you know, it's funny. Some people really came down on Billy Tucci one time. He was telling the story that he said, hey, I'm sorry you feel that way, but I'll give you a refund. What's your number? And of course they never did, because they didn't actually support his book anyway. So yeah, That Carrie Nord run was really, really good. I kind of like that too. I, like David Williams, have taken up residence in Aaron's head. Have you? Well, when you get something in your head that you don't want in there, you've got to blow it out of there. I feel better already. Let's see. Oh, Shelley already answered that. It's Garbage Man, which is my take on sludge. I mean, let's be honest. That was something I created for DC Comics right when I came over, probably 15 years ago, from Marvel, and it was a miniseries, a couple of miniseries actually I did for DC that never got put into trade paperback, and Dark Horse has finally put them into trade paperback, and they're actually part of my Wraith of God campaign. If you want to get one of those, I'm just praying to God right now that I don't sell so many of them that I can't fulfill all of them, because I have to place the order. And I mean, I should be okay. I mean, they haven't told me I'm not going to be okay, but I'm selling a lot more than I thought I was going to, which is great. Yeah, thank you very much. It's done really well, and because of you guys, and I really appreciate it. That's right. Can't stay in my head long. Yes, I think it's too late at this point to save my hair. But yeah, there was some. That's funny because Barry Smith started out sort of as he was doing Kirby, and then, man, by the time he got to those last issues, and I want to say it was, I'm going to switch back over real quickly to take a look at this because I just think it's cool. Was this issue 23? Yeah. Interesting that Gil Kane ended up doing the cover for 23, which was the first appearance of Red Sonja. But to me, you can see, well, take a look at this. If you take a look at the first issue, where's that great splash page he did? Yeah. Okay, so you got this as your first issue, right? It's a little bit more traditional looking comic stuff. Dan Adkins inked that. You can see there's the Kirby dynamics and stuff still going on here in Barry Smith's work. Now you get to this point, and Judas Priest, this stuff, let me find a good page here, because it becomes so illustrative. But it was issue 24. He inked this, look at that. Just of course, most people would say that, Buscema was their favorite Conan artist, but I don't know. Barry Smith was. Look at this face down here. Look at the detail. It's taken 3 months to do this issue. There's so much stuff. So anyway, I don't really, I mean, I went through a phase where, Barry Smith was like a big influence on me. I remember doing when I was a kid, like, 13 or 14, I was doing my own barbarian comic book. I think it was Valon the Destructor or something like that. And I actually still have pages from it. And I was doing like this Barry Smith riff. And then I got on my, so I would like bounce back and forth between. I was reading King Cole by John Severn, so I was drawing. Kind of had a Severn thing going for a while, and then I had a Barry Smith thing going. I had Jim Starlin thing going for a while, and then I finally settled on Wrightson and stuck with Wrightson, and that was that's Barry Smith. Andrew Hayes wants to know. That's Barry Smith. First 24 issues of Conan the Barbarian from like 1970 through 73, probably. Yeah, there you go. See, most people would say that. Because Buscema drew Conan much more brutish and much more probably like you would expect him to look, and where Barry Smith was more, had more of a romantic feel to it, I guess. I've seen portions of this Monsters book, but I have not read it yet. I have not picked it up. And that just goes to show you, look at that. You got Barry Smith, just a legend in the comics industry, and he ends up taking that to, was it Fantagraphics that published that? A really, really small publisher. And you're going to get the least amount of exposure from a small publisher like that. And it would be weird that he couldn't get, I don't know what the deal was or anything else like that, but you'd think that, he might be able to get a book deal with broader distribution, but I don't know. Yeah, Savage Sword was, Savage Tales. First issue of Savage Tales has the first appearance of the Man-Thing in it as well, and as well as was it the Femazons, I think, by John Romita. It's a planet taken over by women warriors, and kind of a little sexy thing he had going on there. And then of course, the Man-Thing story and the Conan story. I want to say, pretty sure there's Barry Smith stories in there for the first couple issues. And then Kazar became a regular in that as well. I used to love all that stuff. No, he had he had the big eyes, small nose kind of, thing going on with his faces that were very interesting, because he sort of lost that as he developed and was doing more illustrative type work in the mid to later 70s. But his comic book work, he had those really big eyes. It's very true. Oh, I'm talking about when I was a kid. I was trying to emulate Starlin, like the way he did his biceps, and the way they're sort of pear shaped, and the way he did his musculature. I was like copying that when I was a kid. So I have like not professional work, but when I was a kid, trying to find myself as an artist. There is. It's kind of a romantic sort of pretty boy kind of look to it. Elegant, maybe. $20, that's what you can get for $20. Yeah, all the Marvel 70s mags were great. It was I think we're all probably romanticized about the stuff we grew up reading, right? If you're an 80s kid, then it's Burns' X-Men or Frank Miller's Daredevil or Simonson's Thor, maybe if you're a little bit more on edge, Howard Chaykin's American Flag, things like that. But I was a 70s kid, so all that kind of, it was right when Wrightson, Barry Smith, Starlin, Plug, all these guys were sort of right at their apex is when I was sort of into comics. So I loved superhero stuff, but I also loved all the sword and sorcery and the monster books because they were all so well drawn. Well, it's definitely true. I mean, you look at his work, especially when he was. Those of you who painfully remember the portfolio show I did, Shelley's still groaning, but we looked at, those guys were doing sort of trying to push comic art into a fine arts arena by doing portfolios and limited edition prints and things like that. Barry's stuff was very. It was very illustrative, but it was very, for lack of a better word, European. And of course, he was British, but it had that sort of nouveau sort of influence style to it. And, some of his stuff was just, his stuff was always beautiful, but sometimes he would not have the fantasy elements. It would just be, an interesting drawing of a person, or like he did a portfolio of Excalibur, right? That was all medieval. It was, King Arthur and Guinevere and all those kind of things. And it was this portfolio, which I think probably, if you're a comic book fan, you're a fantasy fan, you're an adventure fan, and so, Camelot, I guess it is sort of fantasy, but it's grounded pretty heavily in reality as well, and in medievalism. And so I don't know if something like that, Robin Hood would have as much appeal as if he did something that was more fantastic or more, like in the line of what he did with Conan, or if he would do characters that had more fantasy elements tied into them. I don't really know. I don't know how they sold as opposed to some of the other ones. I know his Conan portfolio, which I actually have, is worth about $800 to $1,000 right now. And I don't know. And some of his stuff is, and some of it maybe isn't as sought after because the subject matter isn't maybe as interesting to comic book fans. I don't know. It's interesting. Conan was a character for fine art. His novel covers were Frazetta, comics were Buscema, and Barry Windsor doesn't get fired in that. That's really true. And I always thought, and that's part of the reason why I became such a fan of fantasy art and horror art. Well, not horror, but monster art. But yeah, I guess horror art. Because it always seemed to lend itself to being more illustrative than comic book work. I always associated, and John Buscema is a great artist. Okay, don't get me wrong. Love John Buscema stuff. But him and guys like him and John Romita and stuff, they sort of have a way about their work that felt, they had Kirby, they had styles that fit for comic book work, for superhero work. Whereas when you had Wrightson and, Barry Smith, and then guys like a little bit later on, like Val Merrick, and, Plug, and guys who were doing this really sort of detailed work, and it was always on the monster books or the fantasy books. And so I always kind of associated those with, they looked less like comic book art and more like illustrative art. And so I always aspired to be that. That was stuff that always sort of attracted me to it. And I think that's why you see a difference in my work when I do something like I'm doing with Wraith of God, which is going to be more illustrative because it's feels less like a superhero book and more like a monster book and a period piece and all these kind of things that I feel I can really go to town on. Whereas if you looked at my Justice League stuff or any of my superhero stuff, would tend to have a different feel to it. And I just I've always compartmentalized those different genres, and then brought sort of a different, I didn't really change my style, but a different approach. Maybe using more shadows, maybe using more line work, being more atmospheric with the art. Because a lot of times with superheroes, you're in New York, you're in Metropolis, Gotham has a lot of character. So drawing Batman is a little bit different in that terms, but you're still drawing modern scenery, modern buildings. Whereas, if you take a look at what I did with Gail Simone on that Conan or Wonder Woman Conan miniseries, it's, Matt Ryan still inked me and he's a very slick inker. So it didn't look all that different, but there's some texturing and stuff I did more illustrative in that book than maybe I did in, say, Justice League or whatever. This is an interesting question because you wonder if, I think Buscema, his favorite thing was Weird World, that fantasy kind of Lord of the Rings magazine he did. I actually have a original page up here that Rudy Nebrez inked and Peter Ledger colored. And that was his, I think, my understanding, if I remember correctly, that was like his favorite thing he did. And my guess is Buscema would have done something barbarian or fantasy related. Romita, on the other hand, I don't know if those guys really were, and it's weird to say this, but a lot of these guys didn't grow up because of the generation there. They didn't grow up reading comic books like we did, right? So they didn't have probably the same fandom towards comics that we did. So they may have, comics, I think, was a way to make a living for them. And it's funny because they sort of, Kirby and all these guys sort of defined comics for us, the language of comics for us. But I don't know if they were passionate about comics in the same way, so wondering if they would have done a creator-owned book, what it would have been like. I don't know if it would have been all that different than what they were doing, other than Buscema, because I know Buscema spoke out and was like, was really more interested in doing fantasy and adventure stuff than maybe some of the other guys were. Oh, that's very nice. Thank you. The wonderful artist, Aaron. I wish you great success. Thank you very much. That's very kind of you. I appreciate that. And let me give you a standing O for. Yeah, Abadazad. That was originally something he did at CrossGen. And then, of course, Marvel or Disney bought CrossGen. And then all that CrossGen went under Marvel's banner. But that was him and Jam DeMatteis, wasn't it? Pretty sure. Yeah, now that I'm inking that, I will. So all the comics, all the books that are in those big package tiers that everything's autographed except the Dodson cover. Well, now I can autograph it since I'm actually working on it with him. So yeah, we had some. I knew Terry might have some deadline problems, and he's run into them because he's working on, of course, Adventure Man, and he's doing tons of covers for Marvel and everybody in DC, and so he wasn't able to take it all the way to finish. So I will be doing that. But I'm actually kind of excited about it because Terry and I haven't worked on I haven't inked Terry in a long, long time. Yeah, Shelly's like, yeah, we can't read to read. All he has to do is draw it. But I will let you know it is written. So I don't have to write it and draw it. It's already written. So that is Image Comics. And I think I was going to say Terry probably has the European rights to it. And I don't know what he's doing with it. Because I know Matt Fraction is writing that, I believe. So it's not just Terry's property like Red One or some of the other ones that Terry did that were both had American release through Image, but also had a European release through another country or another company. Stephen Ing's out of here. I have to turn in early tonight for early entry to Steve Wyatt's San Jose Comic-Con on Sunday morning. Oh my gosh, Steve Wyatt's he's doing a show in San Jose. How about that? I didn't even know that. Well, have a good time. That sounds like fun. Yeah, Gail's been cool with me. Yeah, as far as I know, we don't have any problems. You know, I was tempted to publish the Garbage Man stuff in black and white because it's really nice. And in fact, let me show you some. Because I got the pages right over here. But to answer your question, I don't. I think that's more of a. I think it's more of an artsy fartsy thing, you know, and I don't know that that's always the best strategy for selling a book. Is not doing. I don't think the best strategy is trying to sell something in black and white to a mass, or when you're trying to get a mass audience. I just think that you have to be careful that you don't get caught up in doing what you want to do and then disregard what, you know, the majority of the readers are going to actually want and be comfortable with. So let's take a look at some of this stuff, because this is actually kind of interesting. Now, I'm quite proud of the lettering, because I didn't letter the word balloons, but I did all the special effects lettering myself on the board. And I used to really, really suck at that, but I kept practicing and getting better. And Terry Dodson does that really, really well. And being in a studio with him like it was in the 90s, I'd see him do that lettering, and I'd go, dang it, I got to get better at my lettering. And so he sort of inspired me to do better work. So there's another werewolf-like creature, more of a, well, exactly a werewolf, kind of a beast of some sort. So that's a pretty groovy splash page right there. They photographed them and made what was called they'd either shoot stats of them, and a stat is basically a black and white photograph, but with no grays. It would be just like just black and white line art. They used to have these gigantic cameras, and I'm not kidding. You know how the old Polaroids used to have the noses that pulled out? You'd have a giant camera like that, and it's mounted, or pardon me, then you'd have a frame that was mounted to the wall, right? And the camera was held in position so it couldn't be bumped around. You'd put the artwork, right, and it was lit by multiple different light sources, and then the photographer would take the picture, and then you'd have a photograph of the page, which then would be, printed out on, what they call stat paper. So you'd have black and white, and then they would just make the they could make the printing plates from that. But that's how they used to do it before there were scanners. And it's actually a better looking, you get a better looking print, I think, doing it the old fashioned way. But got a couple of hunters out here, little comic relief. All right, this is kind of cool here. But you can see again what I'm talking about in terms of like detail and stuff. I mean, I guess if Superman was out walking through the woods, you might put in this much detail, but generally he isn't. He's, in the city, or he's in a lab, so you're drawing all this tech stuff. But this, see, and this is arm got torn off. I guess I'm ruining this for you guys who have never read this stuff. You're going to get the graphic novel or the trade paperback and go, "Aaron showed me all that stuff to ruin the story." But as you can see, the his arm absorbs up the like dirt and debris around him, reforms, and then he's got a whole new arm. Now this arm has more like vines and stuff in it because he's out in the woods picking up dirt, whereas when he originally formed into Garbage Man, it was in a waste dump, so it was soil, but it had more, like you can see like little vials and rope and things like that that might be in a waste dump of a factory. And again, look at the detail you can put in there. Because I can put all these like mutant muscle bumps and all this because he's like Garbage Man, right? So he's like, I can do stuff. I'm not gonna overwork Batman or Superman like that because it would look odd. They would look like, oh, what's wrong with his back? But this is Garbage Man, so I can do all that. And you go, oh, yeah, that makes sense. It's Garbage Man. Let me see if I got some more crazy stuff. This is his first meeting with the Reverend. Okay, here we go. Check this out. So this is one of the splash pages. What I did with all the splash pages on Garbage Man was here he's floating. He just got blown up or got a shotgun blast to the chest and he's fallen into the water and he's kind of drifting down in this story towards Gotham City, but I had to remove Gotham City, so now it's Murnau City. And if you want to know why Murnau is, look up F.W. Murnau and you'll find out. But as you can see, I worked the title into kind of the water effects here. So it says crossed roads. So crossroads, crossed roads, because he's not at a crossroads. He's already crossed those roads. A little play on words. But anyways, you can see he looks skinnier here, and this arm is really skinny, and like some of the mud and dirt is, has been washed away by him floating downstream. And of course, if you look at it upside down, you can actually see the figure better. And he's lost so much of himself just being disintegrated by the water. Oh, these are all out of order. Dang it. Well, anyway, I had a nice couple pages where here it is. So he washes up on shore, right? And look at that. Look at all that crazy line work and detail. You probably can't even see his face. There's his eyes right there. His mouth is right there. So basically, he's just completely emaciated, and he's lying there in this muddy, trash-filled riverbank outside Murnau City, and then his body just starts gathering up all this garbage around him and all this earth to kind of reform him. You see as he starts to come together there, and has some and reforms back to his normal size and weight. And then this is the last one I'll show you. So he stands up, and this is him sort of in this trash heap on this sewage water, kind of outside Murnau City, kind of looking up at the city, which is where he was trying to get. Now, it's funny because I look at this and all I see is Wrightson right here, because there's a shot in Swamp Thing, I want to say it's number 6, but don't quote me on that. It might be later than that, where it's a back shot of him walking through the swamp. And that's what kind of inspired this pose. But if you actually see the picture, I'd have to go dig it up out of my bookshelf, and I'm not going to do it right now. But it doesn't really look as much like I think it did in my head when I drew it, because it was inspired by this one shot that Wrightson did of Swamp Thing. But I don't, when I get the inspiration in my head, I remember seeing it, right? But I don't go back and crack it open and try to copy it. I remember it in my head and go, and then kind of do my own version of it. And so then, when you compare the two, no one can necessarily accuse me of swiping it, because they really don't look all that similar. But there are some similarities. You can see how it inspired this pose, because I had this idea of him looking up at Murnau City, coming out of the sewage water, and I could just see that picture of Swamp Thing that Wrightson did in my head. So I was like, and so I just said, yeah, I'm going to use that imagery, because that's kind of the look I sort of wanted. So anyway, that's a little preview. But yeah, I would love to do this in black and white, but I don't know. I mean, I could do like an artist edition or something, I suppose, if I thought enough people would buy it. But it's such a crapshoot, especially when you're self-publishing this stuff. It's great to have this ability to talk a publisher into going, oh yeah, this would be great, man. You'll make $1 million on it, and talk them into doing it when you're not taking any of the risk, right? They are. But when you're suddenly the publisher, you go, someone really going to buy this if I put, you know, do a black and white of Garbage Man? Who knows? Maybe they would, but I don't know. It's an expensive book to make if I did, you know, like an oversized thing or something like that. Here he is crushing some weird interdimensional dinosaur lizard thing. And again, you can see the smash down there at the bottom where I did the lettering. Here's another splash page where I worked the title. I worked the title into all of the splash pages to this. And these were all 10-page segments originally. So there's, I think there's 120 pages total. So I did this on, I'm pretty sure I did this on every single splash page. I worked the title into the story, kind of like Eisner-esque, right? So anyway. Oh, wait a minute, here we go. Would love Aaron on a 30s pulp series. Yeah, I would love to be on a, if anybody, again, Shelley make him do it. It's like, you know, it's like doing John Carter of Mars. We all think, oh my gosh, everybody would read that. They don't. You know, we're fond of that stuff, but it's like the audience is so small for it. It's like you wish that we could figure out a way that you could produce stuff like that, even for a small audience, because we love it so much. And it'd be so great to be able to you know, see continuing adventures. I mean, Dark Horse had the Edgar Rice Burroughs stuff for a while there, and Brett Blevins, I think, did the John Carter of Mars stuff, and it was great, you know, but it didn't last very long because no one cared. The Tarzan stuff they could get some mileage out of because he has a little bit more name recognition, a lot more name recognition, but the like John Carter of Mars and some of the pulp stuff just doesn't, you know, Doc Savage and The Shadow and things like that we all, well, not all of us, but some of us clearly in the chat love. There just isn't a big enough audience, and it's a shame, you know, because the biggest thrill I get out of doing comics still, what joy has not been torn out of me at this point, but is the nostalgia feeling I get. And like I said, that nostalgia is different for everybody. It depends on what you grew up reading and what you grew up influenced by. And no, I didn't grow up in the 30s. That was art that grew up in the 30s. I grew up in the 70s, but I was aware of this stuff. You know, the Doc Savage paperbacks were kind of a big thing with the James Bama covers. And you could see some of the Stranko Shadow covers were out in paperback at that period of time. Because there was sort of a big, you know, along with Conan, there was a lot of that stuff was finding, and Lord of the Rings, the stuff was finding itself back into the mainstream consciousness in the 70s. And that's right when I was just right there to eat it all up. And so that's the stuff I miss and the stuff I would love to do, but I don't know that the passion for it it's spread through enough people to make it viable as a comic book property. Well, you know, and it's unfortunate because that could have been a really good movie, a little better casting in the lead and a much better and different marketing campaign. And that movie might be looked at entirely differently than it is right now. Yeah, Shelley one time, I have all the James Bama Doc Savage book covers, all the paperbacks that have the James Bama covers on them. And so she's quite the reader. She reads mostly on her iPad now, but she used to read, you know, can I say the word vociferously? And so she just ran. She didn't have anything to read one night. She's like, "Do you got anything I can read?" And I said, "I've got these Doc Savage books." I said, "But don't bend them over and wreck the spine," you know. So she would, you know, try and hold them carefully. But she read several of them and got a kick out of them. So, yep, it's true. I saw that when I was a kid, but I can't remember too much about it. I remember Ron Ely, who was also television's Tarzan, was Doc Savage in that movie. And I probably loved it as a kid because I wanted to love it, but I don't know how well it would hold up. Hey, you know, same with Jethro Tull. You look at some of their album covers, a lot of sort of Tolkien-esque fantasy elements in those. In fact, we did when Shelley was gone, her brother Brian stepped in as co-host, and we did a thing on all album cover art and stuff, and just it was actually a pretty good show. You'd have to go back and check on the Aaron Lives and find the one that has the album cover art on it, but that was kind of fun, and Brian did a good job stepping in for Shelley. Yeah, I did like her a lot. I thought she was really good because she was a strong female character, which Deja Thorse needs to be. But I just didn't think Taylor Kitsch had enough screen presence to carry the film. Seems more like a supporting actor to me than a lead. You know, somebody like he didn't have the charisma, I guess is what I'm trying to say. Hugh Jackman would have been perfect, but I think he was probably a little bit too old at that point to do that. I don't think I've seen Rude's Doc Savage. I'll have to check that out because I know he probably would do just something really fantastic with it. Yeah, that's about what I'm. That's pretty much what I'm saying. It was weird casting because I don't know that I would have ever picked that guy to be a heroic lead, and I don't know why Andrew, the director, Pixar guy, thought he would have been a good choice for the lead. And I don't want to cast dispersions on him, but you know, there's just some things that, you know, some guys got that sort of lead personality quality and some guys don't. He's, you know, he's a fine actor, but it's just, you know, he didn't really have a big enough persona, I think, to carry that as a heroic adventure like that, even though I still thought it was a really good film despite that. So. Oh, Paul, that, ow. Never got to see Deja Thorse. Already had turned it off. Didn't like it, huh? So is Baron and Rude doing something on, you pulled on a bust of Aaron? I guess Rude, I don't know what Rude's doing, but he must, I guess he's working on some more Nexus. That's cool. Yeah, there you go. I mean, he was better suited for Gambit. That was a supporting role. And yeah, I thought he was great as that, but he just couldn't make that transition. Like Slain, I liked looking at it. I didn't read it that much, I have to admit. But Heavy Metal was in Heavy Metal, wasn't it? Or is it their own thing? I remember seeing it. I know what you're talking about. But a lot of times, I have to admit, when I got into my adult years and started working in comics full time, I didn't read a ton of comics. I would always look at them and thumb through them and look at the art and stuff, but I didn't read them as much as I used to read them. I'd pick a title or two that I would get into, but I didn't read broad spectrum like I did when I was younger. I just maybe because I had more time when I was younger to do that. But I do remember seeing the Slain, and I'm a big fan of Bisley's stuff. I mean, he just does some really crazy stuff. Oh, that's cool. Keep my eye on that. See, that's a perfect example. I just don't know what's going on. I have no clue what's going on. I go on social media and I post, whatever I'm, whether artwork or, crying about the Huskers or, Wraith of God Now campaign stuff. And I don't go and read other people's Twitter. I just don't. I post and then I go and post someplace else and, draw or whatever. I'm not the, in fact, I had to be talked into doing Twitter and Facebook by another artist friend of mine because I just didn't get it, Now I really don't get it, but I do understand the value of it in terms of getting your artwork and your name out there, and also the also the underbelly of it is quite unattractive, obviously. But yeah, I don't know what anybody's saying because I don't care enough to go look. And then if I do care about the person, like I want to see their art or whatever, I just forget. If it shows up in my home feed, then I'll see something once in a while. But I don't go to other people's pages and look at their stuff because it just never occurs to me to do that. And I keep going, oh yeah, I could actually go to the Walter Simonson Society page and look at his cool art, or I could go and do, and I just never, and I just forget. So. There you go. All righty. Go Big Red. Go Little Red right now. Any layouts others have done over the past 10 to 20 years catch your eye? I thought Ryan Stegman was doing some cool stuff. I didn't buy the comics, but I see stuff he posts. I don't know that the storytelling is quite as innovative because I think everybody's done everything, right? At this point, it's kind of like we're all just sort of, McFarlane did a couple things that we hadn't seen before, and Simonson was always blowing people away with his storytelling, and of course Steranko, but I think it's in such it's hard to bring something new to the table that someone else hasn't thought of at this point because comics are so old at this point that it's just, I think people bring maybe a new fresh style, but it's usually based on something else, right, that we're not used to seeing it in comics, so therefore it becomes kind of this new thing. But in terms of like storytelling and page design and things like that, there's very little that I've seen someone else do in some way, shape, or form. So, I mean, if someone's doing something really interesting, it'll grab my attention. But off the top of my head, I can't drop any names. Guys. I mean, I like David Finch's art. I like Dale Keown's stuff. I like, of course, those guys aren't young guys anymore either. I think George Jimenez is doing nice work. I think Pepe Larraz or Larraz over at Marvel, I like what he's doing. Big Ron Garney fan, but Ron's been around forever, so it's he's been around longer than I have. So, hey, Josh Olive. And Ala, what are you doing up this late, man? It's 1 o'clock in Alabama, isn't it? I used to go to we used to have like these, like this Nebraska fans in Oregon, Huskers, Oregonians for Nebraska. And we'd meet at like this restaurant, this big restaurant place, sports bar thing for morning games. They'd have breakfast or lunch, whatever. And Dominican Sue's mom and sister were there all the time. because he's from Portland, Oregon. Went to Grant High School here in Portland. Yeah, I mean, Jim isn't. I see him do stuff every once in a while. My guess is he's probably outrageously expensive. He does like a show, I think a YouTube show or a podcast or something. He's always pushing it on Twitter. I've never listened to it, and I should. See, there's another example. It's like, oh, Stranko, I should go check that out. Never have. My intentions are good though. Oh, look at this. Bought 3 collections today at the shop, and I'm wading through the books. Man, is that the funnest thing ever? Oh. Hey, weren't you supposed to send me a Lord of the Rings backsheet poster? Josh. That's all right. I'm just giving you a hard time. But those Empire Strike Back, that's some good money there if they're not trashed totally. Man, when I go to Bedrock City Comics in Houston, they have Richard, the owner, has such an amazing Golden Age collection. It's just freaking awesome. And last time I was there, he let me go through all of it, and I was just sitting there going, it was just incredible. All right, see, it's faking it. Yes, it was. I need to get that out too. It was in my mail out. Oh, sure it was. You're putting it in there right now. Which version do you have? Do you have the Gone with the Wind ones, or the big Darth Vader ones? Or there's like several different ones, and like 3 or 4 of them are really cool. Yeah, they did. You know, the thing is, and that's another sad thing, that, you know, there just isn't any art on movie posters anymore, unless you go to these, you know, gallery movie poster print things, right? Like Bottleneck or Mondo, or they're still doing art prints, but they're not actual movie posters, right? They're prints and made specifically for the collector market. But no one's doing art on movie posters anymore, and it's so depressing because in the 70s and 80s, that's all there was. It was more rare to see a photograph movie poster than it was to see something with art on it, usually Struzen or somebody like that. But now it's just, they just don't do it at all. And it's kind of sad and depressing, really, because I find nothing more uninteresting to look at than a bunch of photographs, you know, put together in Photoshop and made into movie poster. I just have no interest in it. Oh, that's cool. Submariner 41 from 1955. That's awesome. Mad Magazine number 7. That's when it was still in its comic book form. I had, what was it, number 3? Mad Magazine number 4, somewhere in that neighborhood. I think it had the Super Duper Man story by Wally Wood in it. I had it for a while because I traded a bunch of art way back early in my career to a dealer who had, you know, I just took whatever he had that I thought looked good. And he had that, I want to say it was Mad Magazine number 4. It was only like in VG. It wasn't in great shape, but it had that Kurtzman cover with the saucy babe walking along this fence. And there was, you know, they're on the sidewalk, and you had that short little dude with a detective's hat and the overcoat. And there was like knives sticking in the wall and all this kind of stuff, you know, the people trying to kill him or whatever. And so I think that was issue number 4. But yeah, I had it for a long time. And then I was like, there was nothing I was super attached to. And I was trying to get, I think, some Reed Crandall covers from Uncle Sam comics from the 40s. And so I sold it for cash. And then, or maybe I just needed the money. I've had a few stretches like that where, Yeah, we were. I was selling art and everything else just to pay our bills. Yes, greatest poster ever, but too expensive for me now, I'm afraid. I do have the I got the original re-release poster. So it says, just when you thought it was safe to go back in the water, no, that was Jaws 2. It was, they said, now you can see what you missed the first time when you were covering your eyes. And it's the re-release of the original Jaws in the theater. So I don't know if that was maybe 76 or 77. I'd have to go double check. But it's the same artwork, but it has that tagline on it. Everything was better in the 89s. Well, I think he means the 80s. Yeah, I got a Pirates of the Caribbean movie poster laid out, and I just have not had the opportunity to work on it because I've been live streaming for the last 6 months. And I really want to get on that because I think that could be really cool. I did that Jaws piece because my son was just bugging me to death to do it, and I finally did it. And so now, I got this pretty good idea for a Pirates of the Caribbean poster, which of course had no art on it either. It was all photo manipulation. So that's next on my board if I ever get around to it. That's probably true. It's probably true. Yeah, those are great posters. I have, I don't have, I have the re-release again of the Indiana Jones or Raiders, which is by um, Richard Amsel, and it's that poster where he's, it's kind of a 3/4 shot of Indy, and he's got his whip behind his head, and then all the heads, surround him, kind of, and it looks very Struzan-y, but it's Richard Amsel, who actually I think Struzan sort of drew inspiration from. But I have that, but I have the re-release, so it's called Return of the Great Adventure, and then it has Raiders of the Lost Ark. So it's the theatrical re-release of that film. I got that poster, and then I got all the other ones, the Struzan ones, but I don't have the very first original one for Raiders. A little too expensive for my tastes, for my, not my tastes, but my pocketbook. Yeah, they did, and I've got a bunch of them up in my bookshelf. Oh, I remember those. Those paperbacks, those Mad paperbacks. Heck yeah, I had some of those. My mother regretted buying me snappy answers to stupid questions. Oh my goodness. Are you talking about the original or the one with the whip? Well, I guess he's smiling, right? That's the one you're talking about, the one I have. Yeah, I actually do like it. Octopus Cowboy campaign on IGG had some great looking spaghetti western style covers. Interesting. Yeah, I'm not familiar with that. That sounds familiar. Octopus Cowboy. That sounds vaguely familiar. Yeah, I mean, one of my favorite posters is the, which I have, is the alligator movie poster. I don't know who did it, but it's cool, super creepy and cool. I have the Young Frankenstein, the original movie poster from Young Frankenstein. I've got all the Bob Peak Star Trek posters, which are all great. The problem with those is to get the Bob Peak on Star Trek 2 and 3, you have to get the European releases because they did not use his art on the American releases, which boggles my mind to this day why they did not do that. So finding that Wrath of Khan poster with the Bob Peak art on it is not easy. I finally did though, and I think I saw it on eBay. My mom said, "I don't know what to get you for Christmas." I said, "I do," so I made her get me that poster for Christmas. So I got it hanging on the wall down in the old family room or the movie room. But the Star Trek, the Search for Spock American poster is horrible. But the one that Bob Peak did is fantastic. But I had to get an Australian version to get it. So, hey, one thing about art, man, is it is subjective, and you can't get away from it. We all want everybody to love what we do, and there's going to be people that don't, and for whatever reason. So it's hard not to take it personal, but I've got to a point where I take it personal for about 5 minutes, then I get over it because I realize that everybody has different tastes for different things, and it's the same thing with other artists. You can go, "Oh, I love that guy's work," and the other guy stand right next to him and go, "Oh, I hate that guy's work." So subjectivity. Now, this I agree with you on. I'm not a big fan of that poster either. I felt like he could have done more with it than what he did. You know what I just discovered? There's a real nice, I think it's a Rambo 2 poster. It's a European poster. It's really well done. I mean, it's all painted, right? But it's Stallone, but then it's like a big shot of him up at the top, and then there's like some little stuff going on down at the bottom. And I just thought it was really well done. And I used to be, when I was younger, I used to be a huge Stallone fan. And that's a poster I would get just because I thought the artwork was great. Well, no, wait a minute. Old Dirty Fatty says, "I absolutely love the movie Excalibur, but I hate the Peak Excalibur poster." But then you say, Peak's Camelot is probably the best ever made. You're talking about the movie is the best Camelot ever made, but you don't like the poster. I think that's what we're trying to get at here. Yeah, but that Apocalypse Now poster is awesome. I think that's a great poster. And then maybe it's because I'm a Brando fan. That creepy Brando head. I mean, there's not a lot going on in the poster, but that creepy Brando head, just the composition. Yeah, I dig that a lot. Well, you just said you didn't like the poster, but now you're saying the poster was the best. Man, okay. So you're gonna change. You like the Excalibur poster. I didn't like the Excalibur poster. I thought it was. I would have liked to see more characters on it. It was more like big sword, shiny sword thing, right, with the disco '70s coloring on it, right? You're talking about the Apocalypse Now, I think. Yeah. Rohawk Williams is in the house. See, I'm tossing a little intimidation back at David Williams finally with my creepy film noir lighting. Okay, so we finally got it straightened out. Dirty Old Fatty likes the poster, but thought the movie stunk. Okay, I don't like the poster. I don't hate the poster, but it's not one of my favorite things. There just isn't enough there that really is interesting to me. But I respect your opinion, sir, because I love Bob Peak. So, in fact, the Star Trek 1 poster, I love that. And I've got that. Like I said, I got all the Bob Peak's Star Trek posters. So, oh my gosh. Well, it's funny. As great as Rockwell was, I'm more of a Leyendecker fan than I'm a Rockwell fan, because Leyendecker, what to me, if you look at that old Leyendecker stuff, you know what? What the heck? I should tune out, but okay, you got me thinking about something. Let me show you. Let me show you one more thing, if I may. Get it out of here without wrecking the entire. Okay. Studio's a mess, but okay. So in this box, I have now these. This is Leyendecker. This is actually the magazine, and it's 1916. Okay, and I love Leyendecker stuff because it's so stylized. To me, he was like a comic book artist before his time. People would probably consider this racially insensitive, but what are you going to do? It's still fantastic art. And that's 1923. Okay. Again, I don't collect the covers. I collect the whole magazines. This is another good one. Look at the, like how angular and stuff the wrinkles in his clothing are. It's just tremendous stuff. This is all Leyendecker, right? So he predated Rockwell by a few years, and I think Rockwell was, was inspired by Leyendecker. I got this one because it reminded me of my grandmother. I had a chubby old grandmother, not unlike this, on one side of my family. As 1925. Okay, look at this. This is a great one. Look at that horse. That's just ridiculous. There's another very sort of patriotic. Oh, is this the 4th of July? No, it's June 29th. So yeah, this would have been probably the 4th of July issue. Now these are the hard ones to find, and really ticks me off because these are the ones I really want. The Santa Claus issues, Santa Claus covers. There's 3 or 4 of them. They're very famous, but super hard to find. This is the only one I think I've got, the Santas that I wanted. But just look how expressive those faces are, and that, the angular work on the clothing. It's just so cool. Let's see, I got a couple more there. This is terrific too. It's a pretty famous one, actually, of George Washington praying at Valley Forge. What else we got here? Gosh, let's do a couple more. This is another one I got because it reminded me of my grandmother. Isn't that awesome? And see, Norman Rockwell had his work had a lot of character, but it was a little bit closer to realistic. This is really so stylized, it's almost cartoony. It's so awesome. All right, one more patriotic 4th of July cover with Uncle Sam. Look at that eagle. I mean, it's a very stylized interpretation of an eagle. Sadly, J.C. Leyendecker died poor, and he was a rich, rich dude. So I guess at some point you have to take care of your money. But yeah, he was, when his style fell out of favor, he was like, you know, stories of him walking around you know, New York with his portfolio trying to get work in advertising, and no one would hire him because his stuff was passé. And it's remarkable to think someone that good couldn't get work because his style was out of style at the time. So I guess he died a poor guy after doing, you know, just amazing work and being on top of the art world. It just goes to show you how fleeting that can be. I mean, you don't even have to lose your skill before you, and you could, you know, be on the outs just because, you know, styles change and people's interests change, and you go from being brilliant one day to, you know, completely unwanted the next. Yeah, his work is more fun than Rockwell's, and I love Rockwell. Don't get me wrong, Rockwell is great, but I'm a Leyendecker guy too. He'd have been way ahead of his time. Yeah, isn't that the truth? Oh my goodness. Most of this stuff, most of those pieces have been reproduced in some way, shape, or form. You can get prints. You just like look up Leyendecker prints. They'll come up all over the place. So, yeah, that is the good thing. I mean, it makes it gives you more opportunity than probably we've ever had in our lifetime. You know, to self-publish or, you know, find an audience for what you do. And you don't have necessarily an art director making that decision for you, right? You let the fans and the people that are, you know, supporters of art and philanthropists. You can find them and, you know, get by if you need to in some cases. I like Rob Liefeld, but I love the energy of his New Mutants. Yeah, I mean, Liefeld's kind of he's like, I think you had to be to grow up in that kind of style in that era to have a greater appreciation for what he did. He was obviously wildly successful, so he must have been doing something right. Regardless of what people, you know, might say about his artwork now, it's like, I think I was on top of the world for a while. There you go. There's a J.C. Leyendecker PDF floating around online that has tons of his work in high res. Yeah, and there's plenty of books out too on his stuff now. There used to be the one that came out, coffee table book in the about 1974. I want to say it might have been 72, somewhere in that neighborhood. That was really hard to get. And actually, that's a story with David Williams. I was at San Diego, and Bud Plant had put one up for auction, and no one knew what it was. And it was probably worth at the time, about $300. And the bidding started at 100, and I was the only person that bid on it because I just happened to be looking. The way they had Artist Alley so that we could see the stage, and so they were doing the auction, the art auction, and I could see it from my table. So I stood up on my chair, my folding chair, which collapsed on me, by the way, and everybody got a good laugh. But at least I got my bid in because I was yelling from the back, going $100, $100, you know. And I was the only one who bid on it, so I got the book. Like 15 minutes later, David comes over to my table and goes, I'll give you 150 for that Leyendecker book. It's like, no. But I think there's like 2 or 3 other pretty sizable volumes that have come out since that time with his work in it. So this original one doesn't quite have the, I think, the collectability, the price. It's not in the same price range. I don't think it was, 25 years ago when it was the only Leyendecker book out there. So. Yeah, I still have that too. I have that Maxfield Parrish poster book. That guy's use of color was just, otherworldly. I am a bit of a comics philosopher. Yeah, I think that was the first one. I think it's a thinner book. I think I've got it. I think the one you're talking about. I've got 3 or 4 of his books, but after a while, it's like I've got everything he's done. It's not like there's new stuff being produced. It's like Frazetta. It's like every time a new Frazetta book comes out, I'm like, well, I've got 30 of them already. It's like, but I'm tempted to buy it, right? But I've been checking myself and saying, no, I got every Frazetta that I ever could have wanted. So, all right. I was about to sign off, but David has got a question. Lay it on me, brother. Wait a minute. Oops. Yeah, I can see that. I mean, Rob created, a lot of, or was co-created or created, depending on who you talk to, a lot of characters that Marvel's still using. So, yep. I'm waiting for David Williams to type his question. And while we're waiting for David to type his question, let's take a look at this trailer that I spent money on just for the heck of it. Got to get my money's worth out of that thing. You can back, if you haven't backed the campaign, and I know so many of you haven't, I greatly appreciate it, but if you haven't, there's a link, I think. I put a link. There's a link, I think, in the description of this video that you can go there and check that out. And I appreciate your support. Oh, here we go. Here's the question. Drum roll, please. If you can own an original from one of these artists, Frank Frazetta, J.C. Leyendecker, Norman Rockwell, or Wrightson, who would you get and why? Oh. Can only get one, huh? Well, I love Wrightson, but I don't feel that he's significant in the comic industry, but I don't know that he's as significant outside of that. And so you'd have to go with, I don't know that I could walk away from a Frazetta original. I mean, if I got to pick the painting, it would be Frazetta's Back to the Stone Age painting, which is with the one with the mastodon breaking through the woods, and there's that blonde dude with the spear in the foreground kind of charging at it. That would be the Frazetta piece I would get. Then it would be Leyendecker Wrightson would be fourth, but only because I don't think he's a very specific. These other guys to me are more Americana, speak to, have cultural significance beyond comics, I guess. And, but boy, having one of those Wrightson Frankenstein plates would sure be awesome, wouldn't it? I'm going to do it. I'm going to do it exactly as you got it laid out. I'd go Frazetta, Leyendecker, Rockwell, and then Wrightson. That's actually pretty funny. I'm laughing inside, but I do think that's pretty funny. So I'm going to give you one of these. Because it is pretty funny. Well, I mean, you could argue that Frazetta was as influential as any of those other guys, and I'm a comic book guy, so he was the first, you know, artistic love of mine. So I'm not saying he's not as good as Leyendecker or Norman Rockwell, but I think he's as significant as they are. Oh, you know, God, that would be a good one. And a couple of those Death Dealer ones are really good too. I wouldn't blame you. I mean, I want to write some too, but I can only pick one, man. Frank's cover for Vampirella #5 was amazing. I'm going to have to go look that up. I wouldn't mind having a Jose Gonzalez painting either. Holy crap, that guy was good. Thank you, sir. Thanks for dropping in. I know it's late where he's at. It's almost midnight there. Well, folks, that's 2 hours and 20 minutes. I was only going to go for an hour. So you got me talking about art, which I love to do. So let's call it a night and say thank you all for dropping in and joining me. I appreciate it. Shelly and I will be back tomorrow, 5 o'clock, 5:30-ish. I'll post a thing tomorrow at some point. And that'll be the big show where we've got some videos and, you know, snacks and all that kind of good stuff. And so anyway, thank you guys. Appreciate it. As always, you guys have a good night and a good rest of your weekend. And hopefully we'll see you tomorrow night. And Apex, thank you, man. I appreciate it so much. I appreciate it. Good night, everybody.